Kwengineko, wandani wake Rais William Ruto wametetea kauli yake kuwa ni sharti kuwepo na marekebisho katika utendakazi wa kitengo cha mahakama nchini. Wakili mkuu Ahmednasir Abdullahi ameeleza NTV kuhusu upungufu ulioko kwenye kitengo hicho na ni yapi yanafaa kubadilishwa. Mwanahabari wetu Sydney Chazima aliandaa mahojiano ya moja kwa moja naye wakili huyo.
I was embedded with the presidential campaign, when he was campaigning to become president. And one of the things I've advised him so many times is about the judiciary, the need to reform the judiciary, because the status quo of the judiciary as of 2022 was not tenable going forward. I've told him about, how endemic corruption is, how, the judiciary, will be a very active player in a negative manner in the politics, the economy, and the social progression of society. So the president was alive. He had his own view on the judiciary. I knew he will come back to it, but I think this is the right time. He thought that he should probably visit that agenda. I think what the president has is, this thing doesn't happen out of the blue. The courts don't just give injunctions like that, stopping. It's a network of people sometimes that, plan in advance, prepare lawyers who will represent them, prepare the courts that will listen to them, and get judgments that stop this kind of process. I give an example of a case which the Honorable Paul Mute I was involved in the case myself. During the time of President Uhuru had a lot of problems with the Teacher Service Commission. They were a headache. And I thought, the best way to solve the problem was through the courts. So it went to one court, went to another court, went to the Supreme Court. And the end result was that the courts, killed teachers' nut and, empowered the Teacher Service Commission. And at one stage, we come to know that, the Office of the President facilitated one of the judgments. A lot of money was given to the courts, and everybody knew that, and I tell guys that the uniqueness of the Uhuru administration, unlike the Moi administration or the Kibaki administration and even the Ruto administration, is that that is one administration where a conscious decision will be made to bribe judges, yes, on very sensitive matters like this one between the Teacher Service Commission and the Kenya Union of Teachers, not. So we have seen the government as an active player, in corruption. But corruption is, lawyers are involved, I will not deny. We know who does it. It is, you will see, I tell guys when Willie was a lawyer, senior counsel, we used to get a lot of, referrals. Clients will insist that they need a senior counsel in their brief because they want. Nowadays, you will see someone who is 1 year in practice, pushing the biggest case in town for that month. And they don't need a senior counsel, they don't need a good lawyer, because the judge will help them out. The judiciary is a self-contained institution. The architecture of our constitution was in a such manner that nobody can interfere with it, and it's a good architecture. But the current situation is that that architecture is broken down. The JEC doesn't work. The Chief Justice has no idea about what the problem is facing the judiciary are. If you go to the Honorable Chief Justice's comment today and ask her what are the problems, she will tell you there are no problems because she's oblivious to what's happening in the judiciary. She is oblivious to the corruption in all the courts, whether it's the Supreme Court, whether it's the Court of Appeal, and I always say to a lesser extent the Court of Appeal than all other courts in the country. But when you have a Chief Justice that is oblivious, that has no idea about what's happening in the judiciary, how can an important institution, like the judiciary work? The JSC during her tenure has completely failed. I personally, I've lodged so many complaints. They will write you a letter and say that your petition has been dismissed because you are challenging the decision of a court. If the disciplinary mechanism of the judiciary has failed, what signal does it send to the judges that there is complete immunity, that nobody will touch them? When you don't have a disciplinary process and procedure that works, the system will collapse. And that's what happened in this country. I tell guys, I've practiced law for 30 years. I have never seen the state of corruption in the judiciary now than any of my 31 years. Even during Moi's time, it wasn't this bad. And why? Because the Chief Justice, you know, I mean, have you ever seen the Chief Justice talk about corruption? No. Have you ever seen the Chief Justice talk about the number of years it takes for a simple case to be had? No. I mean, cases are taking 5, 10 years. We think it's a problem of judges. We employed so many judges. We employed 30 judges of the Court of Appeal. The High Court has now about 200, 250 judges. It doesn't help. Why? Because the system isn't working for Kenyans.